Hey guys, welcome back to Kyle Heath Art. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a good mindset for your practice. But before that, I want to give you a little update on my journey. For those of you who don't know, I am on a 2-year path to become a professional artist. That path started on September 1st, and the time of recording now is towards the end of September 2021. And it's going well so far. My primary goal for this journey is to accumulate 4.5 hours a day on the weekdays of attentive art practice. And that's been going pretty well. I've got a little time tracker on my phone that I use. And right now I'm probably averaging like 3.5 hours a day. And I'm fine with that. I've had a bit of a ramp up in the beginning just to get my body used to doing that much art per day. And I'm also in the middle of busy season for my day job. So that's held up the amount of time that I can do daily with practice. You may notice that my energy is a little bit lower in this video. And that's because, frankly, I'm pretty tired. Parenting is always kind of a tiring struggle. And being in the middle of busy season too, and having to juggle that with getting a bunch of art practice in, I'm definitely walking a bit of a tightrope on burnout. Like falling off the tightrope would result in burnout. I don't know. That's the best analogy I can come up with. So this is actually my third time recording this video, my third day recording this video. The first 2 days that I recorded this, I wanted more energy, but with every preceding day that I tried to make this, my energy was still low. So I'm just going with it. This is a time in my life where energy is a bit more of like a precious commodity. So I'll use the energy that I got, and I still want to make videos for you guys. So I'll come as I am. That's just how life is. But in the future, I do want to come out with a burnout video. I've been thinking about burnout myself and how to deal with busy seasons of life sustainably and healthfully. It's difficult. Man, the more variables you get in your life, the trickier it is to keep everything running. I read this idiom the other day. Idioms are like sayings that kind of are exemplary. So, for example, like kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's an idiom. I came across one that I'd never heard of before when I was reading a book on American transcendentalism. That's the kind of stuff I do when I have some free time. And the idiom was, it's hard to balance a full mug. So you think of this picture of like you're trying to walk up the stairs and you have a cup of coffee that's like all the way at the brim. It's hard to walk up the stairs that way. It's a lot easier when your coffee is lower. And I've been thinking about that a lot because it feels exactly like my situation right now with the fullness of my life. I have a lot of things demanding my attention, and it's just harder to balance when your life is like that. Now, I think sometimes you have unavoidable situations in your life where like you just are going to have a lot going on. I've also been thinking if that's descriptive of every moment of my life, I always have a cup that's right about to splash over. Well, that might be an opportunity for me to step back and make changes. You know, it's a difficult way to live, to always have your cup full. I want to spend time thinking for myself on if my cup is always too full, because I think it might be. And I think there are a couple things that you can do with that. Number one, you could rigorously cut out things from your life. And that's a tough thing to do. For me, I know my life is full of things that I love, so cutting would be kind of heartbreaking. But that's not the only solution. Another thing you can do is you can extend your time horizon for the things that you want to accomplish. And all of a sudden that creates space too. So I'll try to think of an example for that. Let's talk about my art journey. I have a 2-year goal right now and 4.5 hours a day goal. Perhaps if my life is just too full to be able to accommodate that, I could consider, well, what would it look like if my goal was stretched to 2.5 years to accomplish? What kind of space would that give in my schedule rather than just deciding I have to move quickly? That would mean I could cut back the amount of hours a day that I practiced, which ironically, cutting back might also mean more opportunity for your brain to consolidate the things that you're learning. When you're just spending a full day cramming information, odds are it's probably not all going to retain. So forward movement isn't always just accumulating more and more. And that'll be a good segue to my topic today on practice, because the idea of accumulation is at the heart of what I want to talk about. But before I get into that, let me think if there's anything else I want to say by way of update. And maybe this seems like a more rambly, philosophical recording. You're getting a true picture into my personality and my heart when my energy is low like this and I start philosophizing. So I'm happy about that. I like talking in this manner. Sorry if it's frustrating and you just want to get to the tips. I understand that too. But this is me. The other updates that I wanted to share on my journey is I figured out how I want to update you. I've been trying to think how often am I going to step in and give progress? And the way I've decided to do it is when I complete a sketchbook, I'm going to do a sketchbook tour. And I'll show you all the pages of the sketchbook, even the really embarrassing ones. And I'll use that as an opportunity to talk about the classes that I'm going through, the insights that I've gained, and you'll be able to just see my progress as I go through this. It should be really fun and interesting. I know I love sketchbook tours. I feel really vulnerable doing sketchbook tours because my sketchbooks well, I'll put it this way. I enjoy drawing from the imagination, and I've been trying to do it much more during my playtime when I'm creating art, but I'm not great at it. And so the stuff that comes out from my imagination sometimes, the quality is so much lower than when I'm carefully looking at a reference, a face on Pinterest or something like that and copying it. I feel real proud of those, but once I start okay, how do you draw a sparrow from your imagination? Things get wonky for me real fast. So, but that's great. I feel good about showing you that stuff, actually. And I think you'll enjoy these sketchbook tours. So it looks like that's going to happen about every 2 months. I'm over halfway through my first sketchbook, and it's been about a month. So that's how these updates are going to look in the future. And then I'll just be popping in from time to time with videos about a certain topic like this one. Maybe I'll ramble on those too. But the idea is that as I come across some kind of insight that really seems to be crystallizing and might be useful for other people to hear, then I'll pop up and I'll pop in and make a video, like maybe, I don't know, every 3 or 4 weeks or so. I'll come up with something. And the other thing I wanted to say before I get into our topic of practice is I did a little calculation of how many hours of art practice I will have accumulated at the end of 2 years. And it was really cool and exciting. So doing the math weekly, I'm doing 22 and a half hours of art practice a week. Part-time job, doesn't sound like a crazy large amount of time. But remember, this is attentive practice. So this isn't like working a job where you take breaks or you talk with your friends. When I'm tracking my art time, I'm fully attentive on the art. So those 22 and a half hours are a little misleading in that sense. But when you accumulate the 2 years worth of that, it is over 16,000 hours of attentive art practice. Wow. That, just seeing that number really made me excited and proud. And it gave me a newfound sense of faith in the idea that if I just put in the hours attentively, there's a whole lot of momentum that is possible over the course of 2 years of doing something with regularity and consistency. That's a good segue for the main topic too. So let's go ahead and get into the main topic. All right, so let's talk practice. Practice has been on my mind a lot because I want to make the most of the time I have. Time is kind of a precious commodity when you have a kid and a wife and a day job. So I want my art time to count. And secondly, I want a practice that is sustainable and doesn't burn me out. As I said earlier, I'm on the edge of burnout right now, and I often am this time of year because responsibilities just seem to stack for me this time of year for some reason. And so I can get real stressed out by being overly focused and intense on the art that I'm working on. So I've been trying to figure out a good way to proceed forward that isn't going to stress me out too much. And so I guess the overarching ethos that I want to share with you is I'm not about to share a mindset that's like, let's hustle, let's really grind and get good. The ethos that I'm trying to convey here is that relaxing and being present in the practice that you're doing, I think is a better way forward. So let's talk about how I used to view practice and how that might have been detrimental to my ultimate goal of getting better. I used to place a lot of priority on completing sketchbooks. I felt a great sense of pride when at the end of the year I had like 5 full sketchbooks under my belt. That felt really good. And another mindset that I often had during practice was that I wanted the finished product to look really good. And what that did was that applied a little bit of a pressure against exploring and trying something new, because when you're going out on a limb, when you're practicing, it may not look good. So as I've been thinking about what the spirit of my practice is going to be, I found a lot of value in the idea of my overarching goal in practice is to do a certain amount of time of practice rather than anything related to how the practice turns out. So as you know, my daily goal is 4.5 hours. And I've tried really hard to keep that as my sacred soul intention when I'm creating. So think about what that does. When I'm sitting there in the morning and, working on drawing cubes, which is, as you'll see in my sketchbook, it is littered with cubes right now. Looks like the scrawlings of a madman. When I'm working on those cubes, my goal isn't to make as many cubes as possible. It's to make cubes during the time that I'm making art. I can't make the time go by any faster, and that lends freedom to my art practice. It doesn't matter how the cubes turn out. It doesn't matter how many cubes I make. What matters is that I'm making art during this set period of time. What I've found that does for me is that's provided a built-in encouragement for me to be present and engaged during the art process. It's so easy to not be engaged when you're creating. There's so many things that tug at your mind. I talked about some of mine, wanting to complete a whole bunch of pages or wanting it to look really good. Maybe yours might be like hoping that you make money off of it, or even boredom. Your mind can be taken in by I'm kind of bored, so I'm daydreaming or thinking about something else. Those kinds of patterns of thinking pull you outside of engagement. It's almost like if you think of the art practice, what you're doing is like this circle. If I were engaged in what's going on in the art practice, then I'm right here in the center of the circle. But if I'm thinking about what people will think of this drawing, I'm not in the circle anymore. I've kind of leaned out of it. So now I'm outside of the practice. And one of the things that does is it makes the practice less efficient. The time that I'm spending practicing isn't going to cultivate as much skill because there's an efficiency loss from the fact that my head isn't in the game. It's outside of the circle and in the future. So that's why I like the 4.5 hours. It allows me to kind of have an excuse to relax the anxieties I have or the concerns I have about results or about things going on in my life. If I stick in the circle, then I can reap the most out of the practice of art. And I'm going to get a lot better than if my mind is leaning outside of the circle towards something else. In that sense, being still and not moving anywhere is kind of the key to forward motion. We often think that leaning forward and hustling and doing more and accumulating knowledge or something is the path forward to skill. But the reality of the matter is being still as possible and attentive on this thing that you're trying to master. That's forward motion. Stillness is forward motion, not movement. And that's a wonderful thing because stillness isn't stressful. Attentiveness isn't stressful. What's stressful is your need to move, your need to accumulate. Those kinds of things are what kind of burn you out. If you're still, you can sustainably soak in a skill. It's kind of like meditation. It's very similar to meditation, in fact, because it's an exercise in non-judgmental awareness. When you're in the center of the circle during your practice time, you're just seeing. That's what you're doing. And seeing doesn't take a whole lot of energy. Seeing is also revitalizing and refreshing. That's one of the reasons why when someone's in a flow state, they often feel refreshed or relaxed after that. That's exactly what's happening here. You're tapping into the right side of your brain, not the analytical side, but the attentive side. And most of us could use more of that than we're getting. As Westerners, we tend to be pretty thinky, accumulative people. So that's just kind of a brief little foray into practice that I wanted to talk about. I really enjoy talking about things like goals and mindset, and the 4.5 hours thing has been really impactful for me. I hope I've gotten across some of the insight that I've been feeling. So yeah, that's all I want to share today. Thank you for sticking around with me on this journey. I hope this video wasn't too boring or too rambly. This is the state of my brain right now. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on my journey. I'll keep making videos. There is so much that's been going on behind the scenes in my art. I'm so proud to share it with you because I've really been growing a lot. It's exciting to see. So stick around with me. And if you liked this video, then give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to help me on this journey, financially support me on Patreon. I would really appreciate that. Money would enable me to create more art and create more videos, no question. The burden of money does take a big piece of my time and energy. So yeah, I would love your financial support on this journey. I've got a link to my Patreon in the description, and you can pledge between $1 to $10 a month to help me out in becoming a professional and sharing my art and my insights with you. Thanks for sticking around, friends, and have a great week. See ya.